Fox News alert, back to the big news of the day and the biggest accomplishment yet of the Trump administration. Unless, of course, you're listening to what Democrats are saying. Take, for example, Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, who thinks the question we should be asking now isn't how long can we make peace last, but instead, why didn't peace happen sooner?
So we could have had this in March, but that didn't happen. In April and May and June, July, August, September, it didn't happen. So the question is why? It's because Israel felt for some reason it had to continue. President Trump felt for some reason it could continue. And it's only now, after all that time, that we've gotten to a deal. That's after months and months under the Trump administration. The question is, why? Or could this have ended sooner? That's a question, of course, I have to grapple with. I think it's also a question that the Trump administration has to grapple with because, of course, they've been in charge for quite some time now.
How rich to look back 4 or 5 months and say this could have happened sooner when you were in power for 4 years. Maybe he's forgetting how long exactly they had to do something under Joe Biden. But Biden's Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, wants us to remember we should be thanking that administration, his administration. He wrote, "It's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan the Biden administration developed after months of discussions with Arab partners, Israel, and the Palestinian Authority." And from running their mouth like Blinken and Sullivan to just plain running. Socialist New York City mayor candidate Zohran Mamdani took part in a 5K for Gaza yesterday. He's raising money for the United Nations Relief and Works Agencies. Now, that's a group that's been involved in controversy since October 7th. At least 9 employees has ties to the attack, with the IDF claiming staff participated in brutalizing Israelis. Hostages say they were held on the organization's premises. And according to the EU, the agency spent funds on terrorist-linked activities. But Mamdani hopes she'll consider joining him. There's more, though. Mamdani posting on X just moments ago. Today's scenes of Israelis and Palestinians are profoundly moving. We have watched as our tax dollars have funded a genocide. The moral and human cost will be a lasting stain that requires accountability and real examination. Now, to be fair, not all Democrats are opposed to giving credit where credit is due.
It's a really significant first step, and I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region. The conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire, with the dismantling of Hezbollah, with the successful attacks on Iran, and with a new regime in Syria that is looking for some kind of accommodation with Israel. This set of conditions has never existed in recent times. And so shame on us if we don't take advantage of it.
Bill Clinton also giving Trump credit today. Meantime, we've been wondering, will The View's Alyssa Farah keep the promise that she made late last year?
If he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like, you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
did she wear a MAGA hat today? Author and podcast host Michael Malice joins us now. Did she wear a MAGA hat today, Michael? I'm sure you were tuned into The View.
I can't wait every morning, but I am a bit of a masochist. I got to tell you, I think, Will, you and I both remember when plenty of conservatives thought that Hillary Clinton is like the worst thing that could ever happen, and then Democratic Party, like, hold my beer, we got Mamdani. She is on the far right of the modern Democratic Party when it comes to foreign policy. And it's very disheartening to see. I also remember very vividly when Saddam Hussein was captured after he was on the lam, and Howard Dean, who had been the front runner for the Democratic nomination in 2004, publicly went on TV and said, congrats to George W. Bush. This is his moment. So this isn't about politics. This is about bringing peace to a region. In 2015, Trump was debating Marco Rubio, Senator Rubio at the time, and he said, look, this would be the toughest deal of its kind, this deal. Everyone watching was like, okay, like, he's not going to be able to do this. Even he, with all his bluster, didn't promise he could do it. And the fact that you have Iran and Saudi Arabia and Hamas and Israel having any sort of deal of any kind is, as Hillary Clinton said, is a huge step forward. And I and everyone else watching this is happy for all the families who have their hostage taken back, and they can hug them again. Good Lord.
Michael, you bring up an interesting point about Hillary Clinton. The interesting thing is the relationship between President Trump and Hillary Clinton has always been icy, and yet here she is giving him deserved credit. Meanwhile, we've seen images of former President Barack Obama and President Trump having cordial conversations, sharing a laugh at a funeral. And it's Obama that is denied to give Trump credit as he has talked about how remarkable this deal is. It is Obama that wouldn't use President Trump's name. How do you explain that?
Well, I don't think Hillary and Trump always had an icy relationship because she went to his wedding, if you remember. So at one point, they were breaking bread.
If you go back further, yes.
So why I think she can give him credit and he can't? Because 2024 was repudiation of the Obama DEI style of politics. Remember, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama ran against each other in 2008. Bill Clinton had said this guy should be bringing us water. Why is he even running? And he beat her resoundingly in the primaries. So I think she represents this kind of corporate Biden wing of the Democratic Party, and Obama represents this Kamala Harris kind of simpleton wing that was really given like a roundhouse slap in the 2024 election. So behind the scenes, I bet the two of them have a very different view of how they want the Democrats to go, both going to the midterms and in 2028.
All right, let me ask you really quickly about how you feel about the prospect of lasting peace. This part hasn't been talked a lot about today, but there was Palestinian prisoners released from Israel as well, and they include men like the following: Raed Shahik, who's sentenced to multiple life terms for his role in killing 2 Israeli soldiers; Mahmoud Issa, he's convicted of kidnapping and killing a 29-year-old Israeli border police officer. There's several others involved here as well, a set of brothers. They were sentenced to multiple life terms for stabbing and killing Israeli hitchhikers. So these are some pretty bad guys that were released back out of Israeli custody. That's just part of the picture, though, Michael. It's a huge, complicated picture. Do you believe you have what is necessary here for lasting peace?
I think the key to lasting peace, it was very clear, this is not something original to me, that Hamas was Iran's proxy. And I think Saudi Arabia and Iran, there's no love lost between them. UAE is another country that's trying to become more cosmopolitan and more worldly in its kind of affairs. So if you're going to have them buying in, Iran and Saudi Arabia, that is something that is unprecedented, as Hillary Clinton had said. So if you have all the other parties on board and Hamas basically loses their support and their funding, they're really not going to have a pot to piss in, hopefully. And then we can work forward, everyone, to having something that everyone in that region can live with. You know, there's that line about compromise being something that no one likes, but everyone can accept. And if that's what it takes, you know, God bless President Trump and, you know, everyone in the Middle East.
Right. And it's a real validation of many of the things that President Trump and Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner have been criticized for in the past, and that's relationship building with Qatar, relationship building with Saudi Arabia, the use of tariffs in these various countries as a pressure point in getting those players on board and undercutting the supporters then of Hamas. It's a real testament to all of the diplomacy and the levers pulled by President Trump over the last couple of years. Michael, it's really good to see you. Thank you for being with us here today.
Always a pleasure, Will.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.